Hello and welcome back to CS38 Racing, and this is episode 38 of MotoGP Career Mode, and we're down at Misano, the doubleheader at Misano, so we're at the second of the two races. So if you're liking it so far, give it a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, it really means a lot here, it lets us know what you love here on the channel. So let's jump straight into it. We're going to look at our free practice. So free practice was a little bit I thought it was quite good. We did relatively long run. As you can see on the left hand side at this stage with 5 minutes to go, we'd done 15 laps. And it wasn't really reflecting on the timesheets. As you can see, we're sitting about 15th at this stage, a second off what Martin is currently doing. But it was feeling good. We were getting some good feeling out of the bike, and I was quietly confident that this would translate through the practices. Even though we did end out in 15th overall, I was feeling pretty good. Okay, so practice. Once we got into practice, we were able to push a little bit more. We'd narrowed in on our settings. We knew that we were blisteringly quick through the first sector of the track. We were losing time at the tail end of the track, so we were compensating for that a little bit. But we figured out to get our settings just right. We're going with the traction control of 3, anti-wheelie of 3, engine braking of 3, power mode 3, of course, when you're going for time attacks. The mediums felt good, but so did the softs as well, and we had pretty good tyre wear on those also. Brakes were running a 340mm front, and that equated to us eventually doing a 132.5050, putting us in 8th overall pretty early in the session there. And then we put in a few more laps and we managed to maintain 5th. So we're through to the top qualifying, BB. Excellent. Alright, let's jump down into Q2. So it was a bit cooler, it wasn't as sunny, and it's not raining like the last round, so we have a little bit more time to be able to work with the bike setup, change a few things here and there. We were balancing between making sure that we get enough agility, but as soon as we had a lot of agility, we also didn't have that same level of stability. So we had to balance those two things on the left hand and the right hand. So I was fine-tuning that in practice a little bit, and towards the end of free practice 1, getting a sense of, do we want the stability or do we want a bit more maneuverability, flexibility? So with the Honda, now that we've gotten used to it at this sort of very late part of the season, moving into sort of the last leg of the season, we were sort of prioritizing getting a bit more stability, as the agility has really come up on this bike since we first started the season. And as you can see, it's starting to bring some pretty good results. So we'll have to see if we can continue using those results into the other manufacturer, if we end up joining another manufacturer. But also, with MotoGP 25 coming out, this might be our last season. So, okay, we haven't risen to MotoGP champion, but hey, we can save that for MotoGP 25 and be able to see how we can go in that. Of course, in that we'll probably start with Moto 3, Moto 2, and go all the way through. But with that being said, we were pretty strong so far this weekend. We managed to get the right brakes so that we were braking a little bit earlier, but able to get a bit more. That entry corner speed was where we're gaining a lot of time on our rivals. The change of direction, we were still a little bit slow. Acceleration, we're okay until the bike just wants to bop, it just wants to wheelie all the time. So with that being the case, we have to try and adjust the bike to get it to be as smooth as possible and make sure that we're not losing too much time. Also changing gears really early seemed to be the only way that I could really get the power to the ground. So very torquey sort of bike, not necessarily top speed or acceleration being the strong point of this bike at this stage in the championship. So with that being the case, we just kind of have to work with it. It's something that we have to adapt our riding style to, because it's not really going to change on the bike. If we're jumping across to another manufacturer, that might be a very different story. It might be something that is a bit more plausible, I suppose, overall, but at this stage we've just got to work with it. So as we come around for sort of our first serious attempts here at qualifying, we do a 1:32.710. So it's quite a way off where we need to be at this stage. 10 minutes to go, so still some time to be found here. We can see that the Aprilia duo is ahead of us, and they are absolutely working in tandem. Whoa, we get really crossed up on the rear there, almost opposite lock in the wrong direction for what you want with braking. Again, we've sort of found through the weekend we're very strong in the first sector. This first sector, we're always able to get under the lap time, so we've definitely got the fastest first sector out of anyone. But with this Honda, it's really being able to string the rest of the lap together, and it's only marginal gains that we're looking at here, but overall marginal gains are still gains, so we do need to be concerned about those and ensuring that we are getting gains and not losing anything. Out a bit wide there on the curbs, it's going to lose us a little bit of drive down this back straight. Ooh, this is a very tight section when you're on a GP bike, particularly the Honda that's not handling so well. Okay, we have managed to pick up a bit here, so we've got some good exit in this last little section. The last few corners we could be making a considerable jump here if we get our exit right, which we're about 6/10 faster than what we were. We are. That puts us into 12th. We're still 0.7 with a 1:32.106. So let's jump back into the pits. Let's see if we put on a... Alright, we're going to go back out on our current tyres. We obviously haven't really used enough to degradate them, but we were needing more petrol regardless. So only 0.099 off Binder. I have a feeling like if we put a lap together, we can definitely get ourselves into the 31s. Maybe a mid 31 might be possible. We'll just have to see how we can put this lap together with 5 minutes on the clock. Currently, the provisional pole is going to the hometown favourite Pecco Bagnaia, followed by Jorge Martin and another VR46 Academy rider in Franco Morbidelli. We're up 2/10 in the first sector. We're just looking to extend that throughout the rest of the lap, which can be a bit difficult if the Honda doesn't want to play ball. So we've definitely got to fine-tune our riding style to ensure that we maximise the potential of the bike here at Misano, because Misano is a track that I do really like. So we want to make sure that we maximise that where possible, getting good runs out of the corners, ensuring that we're not having too much wheelie to interrupt our ability to get top speed. Into the very difficult turn 13 into this final tight sector. We are up, but it's still quite a little bit. I feel like we're a little bit far off, but we are 5/10 up again, so that'll be an improvement of a total 1.5 seconds in total, and that puts us up to 4th. What an amazing lap. We did say we could do a mid 1:31, and we've managed to do a 1:31.619 with 3 minutes on the clock. So I think that's pretty good for 4th and very competitive times. Morbidelli is also through. He's just crossed the line, and that bumps us back down to 5th, as he has done a faster time by 0.045. So very tight margins, very competitive qualifying session here in Misano. Probably what would be expected, considering we are doing a back-to-back race here. Again, being brave and using the curbs, which has lost us a bit of time here, so this lap isn't going to get us anything. But we've definitely put most of our effort into the lap prior to this one. We've got invalid lap anyway. put the ride height device on. 2 minutes remaining. We've just got over a lap to go. We're really pushing into turn 1. I don't know if we're going to get any more out of this. We slipped down to 6th overall, with Martin and Morbidelli and Bastianini all looking competitive on the timesheets coming into the final sector. We have blown that completely, so this lap is gone for us. And we might not have enough fuel to make another attempt here. So Franco Morbidelli's gone top with a 131.071. So they're pushing on the boundary of the high 130s. I definitely don't have that pace. I don't think I can find another half a second, if that. But it has to be ideal conditions. We're already down to 1.4 laps to go on petrol, so it's probably not going to happen this time round. But we just have to see. Okay, 0.8 of a lap to go. I don't think we're going to make it with fuel. 40 seconds on the clock. I think we've been knocked down again. Jack Miller has got through on us. But we have maximised the potential of the Honda. We are the fastest Honda. Pecco's had a bit of a crash here, so, you know, normally Pecco doesn't have these sort of mistakes happening on a Saturday or this deep into a weekend, so could there be some trouble for the Ducati man here in his home circuit? But we've got 0.4 of a lap to go. We've already run deep on this and we're down. That's the end of our session. That's all she wrote, folks. And looks like that is the end of our qualifying session. Miller is also going through on us. We are starting 7th overall. Not bad, not great, but also it's the top qualifying. 7th is pretty good considered to what we've been facing in the previous rounds, so I'm going to take it. Okay, 7th it is. We were 0.5 off the top lap time. Nothing to be scoffed at considering the state at which the Japanese manufacturers are in MotoGP, and also the couple of rounds that we've had prior. Alright, it's sprint time, folks. Let's rev up our engines. Here we go. We're off the line. Marquez is already through on us. That's our main objective, to try and beat Marquez. Digi Antonio's on the inside. If you're enjoying this, whoa, there's been a crash. Make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on a single video here at CS38 Racing. There's our main rival for this race, Marquez. Okay, red flag. Martin's got a long lap penalty, and so does Augusto Fernandez. We're going to stick with the soft tyres. Let's rev up our engines a second time for the second race start. Let's see if we get a better start this time. And we're off. Okay, we're still quite jolty on the Honda, but we do manage to nudge ourselves in the way of Marc Marquez into turn 1. We're deep, we're very deep. But are we able to hold a tighter line into turn 2? We do. Now we've got to get the flick back. Ooh, we're on the greens. That's going to be a penalty. We've had a frantic start. There's Martin. He's going to have a long lap penalty, so we need to capitalise on his long lap penalty, get ourselves a few more points, a bit of a buffer between ourselves and Marquez. As it currently stands coming out of turn 6, we are 10 points off Marquez, but we're also 1.3 seconds ahead of Marquez. Of course, we've got a warning for the incidents. Now we're looking to make a move on Aleix Espargaro here. The Aprilia's been very strong. We're slipping up the inside of the Quercia corner. That was pretty incredible there. I was not expecting to be that strong. But now we've got to be able to hold him off into the Taramonto corner. We're on the green stuff there. That's not what we want to be doing. Expecting a track limits warning to pop up any moment now for that one. And now that we on the back straight, we can sort of settle and take a little bit of a breath and assess where we are. So we've climbed a few positions up from 7th to 4th, and Viñales, Morbidelli and Bastianini are the leaders of our race. Are we going to be able to keep up with them here, or are we going to slip back to Aleix Espargaro, who's half a second off our rear tyre now? Back on the power, so someone's overtaken Marquez. We've got 9 points between ourselves and Marquez now. And we've just got to try and keep it flowing. Those practice sessions, bring all those memories back of the practice session. Make sure that we don't hocus pocus lose our focus. We run a little bit deep. Okay, so the top three are starting to get away from us a little bit now. But at the same time, we are not losing any time to Aleix Espargaro behind us. The Aprilia man close to a second off our rear Michelin soft tyre. Okay, we can still see those top three. Those top three are tantalizingly close ahead of us. Just enough to dangle the carrot, keeping us focused on pushing our braking markers. Quite honestly, I don't mind having someone ahead of you in this sort of situation, because focusing on them as a reference point can often mean you're able to push the bike better than if you were solely on your own, as in where Nea Bastianini is currently. He doesn't have anyone to keep pushing him. The pressure is all on him from behind, whereas for ourselves, we do have a bit of pressure coming from Aleix Espargaro behind us on track, knowing that it's only about a second. We can't really make much of a mistake. 1.4 to the rear tyre of Viñales, so we have the ability to close that gap, put some pressure on Viñales, and let him know that we're there, and hopefully the battle between himself and Morbidelli increases here, because that would give us the opportunity to have a bit of a sniff at a possible podium. Very late on the brakes there. We run deep, but we're able to maintain relatively okay corner speed. And again, this is where we're gaining the time, all in that first sector, which generally you wouldn't associate with the the Honda as being as agile in those sort of tight sections as it is, but we're making it work here for us. We're 1.2 seconds off. The gap to ourselves and Aleix has increased almost 2 seconds. We're currently sitting 7th in the championship, so our start position was also where we are in the championship, but current standings would mean we are 7th, and we're looking to make that better. I want to be looking for a top 5 if possible, but we're going to need a few more wins this season, which I'm hoping maybe Mandalika might be a strong result for us, possibly the likes of Malaysia as well is often a track I quite enjoy. Pecco Bagnaia is behind us as well, so we are gaining on quite a few of the riders that are ahead of us in the championship. Lap 4 of 5 now. We've managed to bridge the gap to Aleix Espargaro to just over 2 seconds. And the gap has stayed relatively the same between ourselves and Viñales, who is currently 1.5 seconds ahead of us. So I think this is where we're going to be. I don't think we're really going to be able to gain any more time out of the bike here at this stage in the sprint race, with one lap and a bit remaining realistically. And we've run a bit deep, so that's going to compromise our gap also. Ooh, Viñales has crashed. That has given us 3rd place. That's a little bit of a stroke of luck here, considering the position we were in. But at the same time, if Marquez gets past Viñales, there isn't any points difference gained, so to speak. But also, we do have to keep an eye on that gap. Aleix Espargaro is now just over 1.5 seconds behind us. Because Viñales' crash kind of threw us out of our braking marker a bit, we had to be a bit more conservative. to put us currently on 149 points off the likes of the top rider in the championship, being Pekka Bagnaia. There's been another crash somewhere in the 4th sector, but we're on the last lap, so now we're really just looking to conserve, make sure we don't make any stupid mistakes, ensure that we can maintain the pace through the corner. These are all the things that are starting to go through your head as you're coming into the last lap, knowing that you have a comfortable gap, but not the most comfortable gap. Easing ourselves into turn 8 of Quercia Corner, a bit of a deeper line, but can we carry the speed back through to the other side? Just being very cautious. Bastianini has taken a crash now, but he's too far ahead that we're not going to really gain anything out of that mistake from Bastianini. Very cautious. Aleix Espargaro is half a second onto our tail, so we want to be careful. We don't want to lose the position here just on the final lap. We take a quick look back, and it's 3rd overall in the sprint. So, 3rd, that's the first time we've had a podium in a sprint situation. Very happy with that. That puts us 7th in the championship. Not too far behind the likes of Marquez and not too far behind the likes of Viñales either, though we do need a pretty good points haul to ensure that we get through on Viñales at this stage in the championship. We are 7th as well in the team's championship, and 4th in the Constructors' Championship behind KTM by only 2 points. Okay, if you guys are liking this one and you liked that race, we maximised the potential there of the Honda, considering the state that Honda's in, so give it a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification, join the CS fam, why not? Okay, let's jump straight down into race. It's race time. We're running the soft. I do think it's enough to make us last the distance. Not Viñales, Marquez has come flying through. We've had an absolutely shocking start. Down to 14th position. Getting caught up in a KTM sandwich in the first 2 corners, as well as Marquez getting a bit frisky on the inside there, but we're going to cut back on the inside. Binder has had a crash. And maybe by the look of it, there's also been an incident with Binder and Marquez, because that has... Whoa, look at that. I've kind of lost for words as I made that move through on Viñales. But we're 2 points ahead of Marquez, 3 points currently, but we're going to run a bit wide. 2 points ahead of Marc Marquez at this stage. That would be a pretty good turnaround considering the disaster that we did have in this first Misano round. Pecco Bagnaia is there also. Can we latch onto the back of Bagnaia? It's going to be a tall order to get onto the podium from here, I think, but if they battle, and if they battle each other a lot, we may be able to gain back on the Ducatis. We're the only ones stopping the Ducatis from being a Ducati top 5, because it would almost be a complete Italian manufacturer takeout of the top 6 in this case, or top 7. Marlboro would be 5th, then Viñales would be 6th, and would be 8th. Yeah, top 7 for Italian manufacturers. Okay, so we're just shy of a second off Pecco Bagnaia, but we're also half a second ahead of Aleix Espargaro, so we're really looking to put in some solid laps here to cement ourselves in this position, which we're looking to here. So that first sector, we've almost gained a second, full half a second on Aleix Espargaro. We're still just under a second away from Pecco Bagnaia also. So I guess we just have to look at how we're prioritizing what and where we're looking to push, when, how, why, and develop that race strategy from there. This stage we've gained a little bit on Pecco again, but we're increasing the gap to the Aprilias behind us. We're almost 1.4 seconds off ourselves now. Pecco seeming to manage about that 0.7 of a second around most of the track. Martin has the fastest lap on a 1:30.31.336. Ourselves on a 31.735. So we do have a little bit of difference in pace compared to the rest of the field. But we do have to consider also the bike that we're on and the limitations that we have. So overall, it's not too bad. Done a faster time again with a 1:31.585. Whoa, we're way too deep into the Rio corner. It was looking to be a relatively straightforward race here. We're just looking to maintain the gap that we have. Pecco Bagnaia ahead of us and hopefully close in on him. At the same time, we're looking to keep the gap around 2 seconds to Aleix Espargaro behind us. And this might be a little bit of a boring race from a viewer perspective, but for myself, I am happy to be contending for a top 5 in a comfortable position. It also shows about the way that we ride and the way that we can adapt to the physics of the Honda. So overall, quite happy with it. Never expected to be in any position of, fighting for the championship with Honda anyway, but for us to be looking at the top 5 as a prospect in the championship, I think is pretty darn good. We also could walk away here with an increase in points on Marquez, which has been our objective for the previous sort of rounds. So last Misano, Marquez was able to gain quite a lot on us, whereas this round it looks like we're able to, I guess, put a bit of damage limitation to bring it back to even in regards to the battle between ourselves and Marquez for the championship points. Pecco's sitting at about that 1.5, 1.6, possibly even 2 seconds ahead of us, whereas we're almost 3 seconds ahead of the following Aprilias, which again, if you haven't seen the previous season, Aprilia was our previous employer as we raced with Trackhouse Racing, but that was on the PlayStation 5, whereas this season has been on the PC. Let us know, considering that at this time of recording, it's not long until MotoGP 25 is out. Are you playing on PC, Switch, Xbox, PlayStation? Comment down below which one you're playing on, and are you excited for what looks like the new features in MotoGP 25? This being said, it looks like we've got ourselves into a relatively stable but lonely 5th place, and I am not going to scoff at that. Taking a solid top 5 at Misano with a predominantly underpowered, well, we've had a lot of time lost there, underpowered Honda, maybe not underpowered, but just not the best handling, not the best all-round package. Considering a little bit, like reflecting a little bit on the season that has been, there's been some down races, there's been some horrible races, but there's also been some moments of, unexpected, results, unexpected, little magic moments. Like I wasn't expecting in the first round on Honda to be competing for a podium, but we were. We have managed to get a win. Can't remember where we've got a win now. It's been a while since those episodes were recorded and released, but I think overall, being not even in factory Honda, being an LCR Honda, which I think arguably is one of the best looking bikes on the 2024 grid, we have managed to mold Honda a little bit into a semi-successful bike. I don't think this bike is something that is too horrible to ride. I think there's quirks to it. It's not perfect. There's things that definitely need to be ironed out. But overall, I think it's working quite well. We're managing to make it work, make it as smooth as possible, adapt our riding style where possible, and on a game level, adapting our play style where possible, because I feel like it's very easy to get stuck into the trap of trying to muscle or wanting to muscle the bike to do it and forcing it to be this way. But I don't think the game, particularly with GP24's physics, works that way. You've got to kind of mesh yourself in the bike and the throttle and the inputs, and it can take a little bit of getting used to, but once you do that, man, do you find some time. In this case, we have found some time, and on a bike that could definitely, it needs improvement in a lot of areas. I think the main thing is just its brutal power delivery. It just either wants to be, fully on the fat part of the rear tire, just pushing, and even when you've got that ride height device in the front wheel, the front wheel is still popping up, just sort of bop, 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 bop. You have to sort of change the gear early just to get the front wheel down to get some traction. But at the same time, I do feel that with the softer brakes, so the 340s or sometimes the lowest brake spec that you can run, I think if you change braking style, there's time to be found. You might be an aggressive braker, you could be a smooth braker, however your riding style is. I think just taking a little bit of a step back and trying to understand, how does the bike react to how I play with the bike? How does it work? I think it's one of the easiest ways to find time, because there has been comments on recent videos of discussing, setups. Can you do setup videos? Can you do tutorials around how to, maximize these bikes? And I think honestly, there's plenty of tutorials out there, and all of them are immensely helpful. Definitely things that I think you should watch, and it will help you. But I think the biggest tip for me at the end of the day is just play the game for the enjoyment of it. If you're already investing $90 or so, or any amount into the MotoGP game, then you're most likely a regular MotoGP viewer. And if not, maybe you were growing up, so you've got an emotional attachment to what MotoGP is, and probably even motorcycle riding. Some of you may be motorcycle riders or have been in the past, or it's a goal of yours to want to save up and eventually buy a motorbike or something like that. All of those things result in why you would pay for this game, and as such, I think for you to find time, you just got to spend the time with it. Just relax into it. You're not going to be Marc Marquez. You're not going to be, unless you jump the modes back and you're happy playing in that style, then play in that style. Make it as fun as you want it to be. But for me, what I find to be the most satisfaction I get from the game is primarily around just taking the time to learn the bike, to understand it, to learn your riding style, just taking the time, putting in the laps for it to work. And you never know, it may get to a point where you're at this stage, you're 5th in the race on not such a strong bike. On the last lap, we are losing quite a lot of time here to Alicia Spargo, but that's because we're being overly cautious. We're not wanting to throw away points here. It doesn't matter at the end of the day if we are a 2nd, but it's 5th, and that is what has worked for us here. So 5th overall with a fastest lap of 1:31.585. We weren't too far off the pace of the riders ahead of us, but it's still a considerable margin considering where it puts us overall in the championship. The fastest lap being Alex Rins with a 1:30.902. But we are a long way ahead of the Japanese manufacturers. So I think that is a really big hats off to our team and the results that we've been able to get here in Misano. Let's see where that puts us for our championship bid. We've moved up. We're in the top 6. We are 3 points ahead of Marc Marquez. It's going to be hard to catch Maverick Vinales, considering he is on 204, but hey, at least we're ahead of Marquez. That's been our main objective. Let's push as much as we can to stay ahead of Marquez and try and challenge Vinales for the 5th place. That puts us 6th in the Teams Championship, also putting us ahead of Trackhouse Racing MotoGP, and puts us 3rd in the Constructors Championship, 1 point ahead of KTM. Beat Marquez, we did. Reputation bonus has increased a little bit. We've got at least 15th in race and sprint. So that sets everything up for the next round in Indonesia. Hey guys, if you like it, give it a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button and that bell notification. Show the love here for the channel. Okay, stay safe, have fun. See you on the next one. Bye for now.